Okay, we're back with another panel at the end of a long day. At least that's what I'm hearing from you, Martina. Tell us about it. Can you guys introduce, can you girls introduce yourselves?
Yeah, my name is Martina Grom. I'm from Austria, living in Vienna, and I'm an Office 365 MVP and, like you, a Microsoft Regional Director.
My name is Lisanne Brons. I live here in Amsterdam and I work for Microsoft for the past 6 years in technical pre-sales. And 3 months ago I got promoted, so I'm now leading the team technical pre-sales for Modern Workplace.
Hi, I'm Astrid Hackenberg, also based in the Netherlands. Work for Microsoft in an international role as a commercial software engineer manager. With a team that is spread in 4 countries.
Perfect, welcome. And there is room for questions. If you guys and girls want to do questions, come up, stand up, raise your finger, and we'll weave them in. The topic is about diversity and tech. And what I've learned is diversity is not the same thing as inclusion. Astrid, do you want to get a stab at this first?
Absolutely. Of course, we all have some idea around diversity, which means that we are all different and we should be ideally have teams with people who are different. But that doesn't mean you're inclusive. Inclusiveness means that we can all come as we are and be valued on that. I think that's inclusiveness, and that's more important even than diversity. And you can only have diversity in your teams if you are inclusive.
Right, and one of the analogies I've learned online, actually on Twitter today, is that they said diversity is being invited to a dance party, but inclusion is dancing together. Do you want to comment to that, Lisanne?
Yeah, being able to do your own dance and not being laughed at, but I don't know, sometimes that works, sometimes that doesn't. I think it's an interesting topic because, striving for diversity is one thing, but really being able to be yourself is another thing. And it's interesting if you look at the research is that having diverse teams actually means that people are achieve more. I mean, they get more creative, they stimulate each other if people have different ideas, different backgrounds, different input. But what is important for that is that people also feel comfortable to be different. Because otherwise everyone just starts acting the same and you kind of lose the effect that diversity brings.
Right. Martina, you're from Austria. Do you see the same challenge in Austria with diversity in tech?
Yes and no, because I think diversity is more like, it's not only women in tech. And this is the thing I'm worried about the most currently, because I know that women in tech is important, and is an important topic as well. But I think to be diverse also means that we have different colors, ages, race, and stuff like that. That we to be more diverse in that environment. And what I see, and this is something what I normally don't like, is that men shouldn't feel guilty for being men. And very often I see that direction goes in that way, and I don't like that, to be open and honest on that topic. In Austria we have kind of the same situation like in any other country as well, but what I see is that people tend to be more interested in the industry and tend to learn about new opportunities to being in the industry as well.
Okay, well that's good to hear. If you specifically look at, for instance, Microsoft, there's quite a pro-inclusion policy, pro-diversity policy in the company. Is that a good thing?
Yes, it is. No, and I do see the same things, as Martina pointed out. So there's diversity between men as well. So let's look at it from a bigger perspective. We were saying it's quite funny that we're talking about diversity and we have 3 women sitting here. I'm not sure if that's the real message we were trying to get across, but we're happy to be here. But yeah, when we look at the policies we have at Microsoft, I think it's it shows an ambition. If we just let things go naturally, it doesn't go at the pace we would like. So we spend a little bit more, we give it a little bit more attention. Just to make sure that we create the diverse teams and have everyone feel that they can be themselves, and I think that's a good thing. And so, for example, in the Netherlands, we now have so we do go back to gender, but we have a senior leadership team that's now 50% women, and that's higher than the average what we see. And I think that shows an ambition, and I think that's a good direction we're taking.
Right, good to hear. I think, Astrid, you've been in the industry for a couple of years already, and at one point you probably thought, like, hey, this might be a direction to go into. The question, of course, would be like, why? What triggered you? Was there a role model? What made you choose this path?
I guess my initial choice was interest in technology, so that was my initial choice, and I think that's also still the main characteristics you need to have in the technology industry. Is interest in technology is knowledge, so that's the most important thing you need to have, whether you're a man or a woman or whoever you are. There was a role model once after I started. There was this woman. I started long back in the Fox Base world or the Fox Pro world, for those who still know that. And there was a very strong community, and there was this woman called Lisa Slater, and she was like presenting and representing basically Fox Base, and she was a big role model for me, and she did make me go and present on conferences and be like outspoken about what I'm doing. So yeah, definitely, that was a role model for sure.
Good to hear. Lisanne, is it the same for you? Was it something that specifically triggered you to look at tech and go this way?
Well, I see him laughing, so he's gonna get mad for pointing him out. But I think my dad was of a big influence of me choosing tech. He's also here today. I think that was the initial interest. We talked a lot at home about why things work the way they work and trying to break it down, looking at things like innovation and that sort of topics were common at our dinner table, so that definitely helped. And I think going forward, I just kept that interest, and I never really realized. I studied AI, and I chose it because I couldn't choose, and it was at that time the study consisted of computer science, math, logic, but also psychology, language, and philosophy. So for me, it was really because I didn't want to choose.
Nice, you had a broad vision there. Martina, is it the same for you? Was there something specific that triggered you?
So for me, it's just passion around the job. So what I discovered I think it started when I was 14. I just discovered that I have a high interest in technology and in computer science and so on. And I never thought about that, is that the proper job for me? I just did it. And that also during my study, I started to make software trainings for students, for other companies and so on. And during the companies, I was asked the first time, oh, you're so young and you're a woman, how could you do that? And I never thought about that. Because it's just around passion and what you like to do, and also you can't force a person into technology if he doesn't like that. And this is also something you need to consider. If you like the kind of job you are doing, you are in the right position.
Right, it's about gender. It's not about gender, it's about your passions. Like you said, Astrid, if you love tech, just go into tech, no matter who you are. Now you do see at this time frame of I think about 15, 16, 17-year-olds, a lot of girls are going another pathway. Is there anything like education can do or anybody can do to inspire them, to give them an option at least to look at tech?
I think to give them an option to use tech is showing them what they can do there and how it works, and give them that kind of woman days where they can practice work or stuff like that. We have that kind of programs, and also treat them just equally. It's no difference between genders, that someone can calculate things better and the other can learn languages better. It's just about how they want to do that and so on, and go beyond traditions.
So what you say is remove bias, treat them the same. That's a big thing.
Yeah, and I think I was thinking two things. Looking when you mentioned, I think when I chose my study, it's often people respond like, "Oh, isn't that a boys' study?" And you have to be a bit well, I'm going to do it anyway. But I can imagine it also influences people. And I'm sure that's also in other professions the other way around. I mean, I don't know, but maybe, if you're a guy in high school and you want to become a nurse, you face similar things. So I think it's just being conscious of that sort of stuff is very important. Yeah.
Right. Now, for companies, Microsoft has this pro policy, but what can companies do today to stimulate diversity in tech?
I guess it starts with hiring. I mean, and everything that goes with that. Honestly, if you read most job descriptions, people might not feel attractive to apply for those. So I think that's a very important point. And then if you are in a hiring process, I think we do a good thing there as Microsoft, where we say we need to hire based on competences and not based on facts and skills maybe you have now, but what is your potential to be successful in a certain role. And if you think about that, then suddenly it becomes more attractive to a lot of people, and they might feel less barriers to apply for that. So I think that's an important thing to keep in mind. How do you describe the role? What are you asking for? And does that appeal to a broad set of people, or only to a very narrow profile?
Can I respond to that? Yeah, so I think this relates to the conversation about girls growing up, but also at a later stage for anyone. I think we sometimes in IT in general do a bad job at creating clarity on what you actually do in an IT job on a day-to-day basis. And when you grow up, it's often thought about like, there's this image of if you're in IT, you're probably people think about a developer that's coding all day, and then they have this image of what that person could look like, and they cannot relate to that. And I think for younger kids, creating clarity on that nowadays IT is there's many more options and possibilities, and even companies that weren't IT companies are now IT companies, and there's so many possibilities. But also at a later stage in the like Astrid pointed out, when you look at the job profiles, I think we can do a better job at describing and painting that picture of what your day-to-day job actually looks like. And if you love coding, then it's also good, but there's many more things to do.
Yeah, like you said, every company will be a digital company going forward, so it's very important. Do you want to add to that, Martina? So clarity, as you said, is something that's important. Talking about the subject, making the company aware, people aware that this is something to look at is also, I think, important. Talking about it and making sure we amongst each other talk about it, or no?
when I think about our company, so we have 40% women in our company, and it wasn't done by intention, it wasn't done by purpose or anything else, it just happened to us. And so it's a hard time to answer that kind of questions because I don't have that specific problem in my company. And what I see among the women in our company is that you just have to raise their attention about technology and show them new things, and also promote them and treat them equally, and also the men.
Right, yeah, treat everybody equal in essence. It's interesting, on Twitter this afternoon I saw that talking about diversity, even at the Tech Summit, the men are overrepresented. Now, going back to the remark of education and at a young age, what would help? What are other things we could do there to attract people into this area? Is it also, like you said, do we all need to learn coding because companies are becoming more digital? What would help to set a bigger motion in play?
Well, maybe we should learn everybody to code. That's an interesting thought. I mean, maybe like in school, like you learn English nowadays on most schools already, on primary school, because we feel this is important for our future. Maybe, yes, we should learn everybody to code, like in a very basic way maybe, but to understand that. And also I think it's important to emphasize that tech is not necessarily also hardware or gadgets or that kind of technology. It's a lot about logic, as I think Lisanne pointed out, but it's also a lot about logic, and it's a lot about interaction with other people. But yes, I would be in favor of learning coding at school, definitely. Why not? I mean, we learn math, we learn, physics and all those kind of things. So yeah, it might be more useful than learning Greek or Latin, because what good will that do in our future? I don't know. So definitely makes sense to me.
Makes sense. Everybody go .NET as a new language.
Yeah, we can introduce some new languages, but I think, it's hard to predict what are the skills of the future, but I think if we look at the education today, I think there's still some room for improvement on, not making sure that we train for the things that will be of use 10 or 20 years from now.
And you talked about leadership at Microsoft, this in Holland being the half women, half men. And I think, Martina, you said 40% of our people are women, and we talked about role models and about women going out there in tech, presenting at conferences. Does this matter if you inspire them through leaders, role models, the executive layer? Is this important? Something we need? What does the impact of such a thing do?
Well, I think for anyone in any company, male, female, any role, it's important to see what your career opportunities are and what are your options. And having examples that you can relate to is important for anyone. It doesn't really matter who you are. I think it's good to start, to also look at things like people who are either in a management position or on stage or in any other way, more in view. I don't know how to say in English properly, but that's an important thing. And then also looking at the numbers. So obviously the numbers differ a little bit if you look at tech roles or other roles or management, etc. But in the Netherlands, I know, for example, that right now the addressable market of technical educated women is 9%. So we are a lot higher than that, and we have an ambition that goes even further. But then we get back to the education part.
Right.
Yeah, talking about role models, and I'm thinking a lot about that. So I think speaking at the tech conference where there are 95% male persons, there's no room to be a role model for women because it's a wrong audience, to say it that way. Because what I learned is that, for instance, to give you an example, my first movie I watched ever was Star Wars. I was 7, and my father was a science fiction fan, and he got an excuse to look at Star Wars with me. And it was my first movie, and I fell in love with Han Solo and all the characters in the movie. But my role model out of the movie wasn't Princess Leia, it was Han Solo, because I didn't think about the gender at that time, and I never did it that way. So I'm not speaking, and I don't want to have a session at the Tech Summit or somewhere else just because I'm a woman. I want to be treated equally, and I want to treat it by knowledge and by experience and by passion. And this is also very important.
Oh, good, very good point. Astrid, you talked about speaking at conferences quite a bit. Also sometimes being almost a distraction from your core passion, being there almost as a billboard now and then. Is it also like a hard thing? Is it something that gets in the way?
I think it does, because I can totally relate to what Martina says, but I mean, speaking at a tech conference like this doesn't help really in being a role model for those people who are not there. So, which is mainly women who are not there. But because there are few women in technical roles, they are, of course, the same women might be overrepresented at different tech conferences, and that also might not be the right sign to give, because it shows that there are only few. And also, you want to do different things, and you want to be valued on something else than just being there and speaking because you are a woman. So I totally agree with what Martina says around that. Yep.
Right, and I think it relates to the Twitter comment we got this afternoon, like how can even the Tech Summit be more diverse? I'm hearing you girls say, like, how do we change this? What needs to happen? Should there be other type of conference? What's the way to really break this?
I think it all goes back to where we started, diversity and inclusion. I think it's important for each and everyone here to think about inclusion and how can we make sure that everyone feels welcome and safe to express whatever they feel and feel passionate about and their opinions. Because, you know, I think looking at us, I've been to many, conferences, or I was at a boot camp the other day. There were about 500 people and there were about 20 women. It was, it was pretty bad. But for me personally, I'm someone that I like working with women. I'm there, I'm like, okay, that's the case. I observe it, but it doesn't really affect me. And I think you need to have that at some degree to make it work. I don't really mind. But what I do mind is when I'm there and I say something, and then I feel like, sometimes you might have a different opinion, and people say like, oh, that's weird. And then there's like, all of a sudden, it feels like there's a group of people saying you're weird, and then it can feel uncomfortable. So I don't think, we should only focus on the numbers, like, oh, let's aim for this and that percentage. But let's aim for a culture where we feel comfortable to be ourselves. I think that's more what each and every one of us here can do to make it work.
Yeah, so what you're saying is open-minded, really fundamentally including everyone should make that go in motion. And it should also add to the result, to the work, to the profession, to the industry, having different views, having different opinions and different topics, right? Do you want to do some final remarks on diversity, on inclusion, on tech, on women and everybody, on what's next? What would we send them away with? What's the remarks from you, Astrid?
Well, maybe to start that, unfortunately, I'm not as lucky as the other two here to be part of a team where actually 40 or 15% is women. I'm part of a an actual engineering team, people who do coding, and unfortunately only 10% of that team is women. But we do have great diversity, and one of the reasons why we have diversity is because we have people in 4 different countries, which brings diversity by nature of different culture. So that's a very important one, and also we have great diversity based on age. So we range from between 22 and let's say 55, which is a pretty big range of age within IT, which also brings a lot of diversity. And of course, there are other things diverse in our team, and I think that's really important. And I think that's where we should start. We should start with looking at everybody as an individual and value what they bring to become a better team and to become better in the work that we do.
Yeah, I think I can build on that. So I think my advice for each and everyone who feels a little bit different, for me that's 6 years ago, it was not the case that we were we were less diverse, I would say, in my team. I was the only girl in the technical team, and I think, you know, my real success hit it off when I started trying to be like everyone else on the team. So that's my biggest advice I can give anyone who feels a little bit different than the rest. That's your specialty. Be good at it, own it, and don't be shy. Be proud, and just do it, because you don't need to be like everyone else, because you lose your special value.
Special power.
Yeah, to give one single advice about what you should do or should not do is that you love what you do and do what you love. And this is also the most important thing, because you are spending one life and you should enjoy that one life, and you should really do what you love in the end.
A lot of very good words, inspiring words. And so what we've learned is diversity is something else than inclusion. We should include everybody. It should be a fundamental motion going forward with an open mind. And I think what we've also learned is diversity brings a lot to the table. Special powers, as we've learned, but a lot of different viewpoints that helps build our collective success. So thank you with that, and if you want to continue this conversation, there's a URL here on the screen you can go to, join into the discussion, and well, thank you Martina and Lisanne and Astrid for being on the panel today. Enjoy your Tech Summit.